Hello out there, all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear, listening into another what if scenario for me. And this what if is going to be a little bit different because this what if is also a pitch for Switch, where I'm going to give you guys the ideas and details in my head for a Dragalia Lost fighting game. Now, it's honestly, it's not like overly complicated, but it is something that I really do have to kind of thoroughly explain out because it's just been sitting in my mind for a little while since I've been playing the mobile game, and I've been kind of invested in the story of it. Like, and it's a really decent story, and the characters, they definitely draw you in if you're into that type of storyline with like and all that type of stuff. Like, it's interesting, but getting to the point that I'm trying to make here. So, what if Dragalia Lost was a fighting game? Firstly, like, there's only really one team I want to see work on this, and that's Arc System Works. Like, I mean, obviously, you'd have to have Psy Games work on it as well because they are the ones that worked on it with Nintendo. So it would be Arc System Works, Psy Games, and Nintendo working on this project. Like, to me, that trio makes a lot of sense. I could see the lead character Uden being like, okay. Let me backtrack a few steps. The main cast of characters that are part of the main story should all be in this game as playable characters. And I haven't fully finished out the story, but I know a lot of that is Uden's family, like his brothers and sisters and stuff. So they should all be part of it. The crew that he has that follows him should be part of it. The henchmen of a couple of the antagonists should be part of it. Which that all makes a lot of sense to me. So for this game, I'm going to just quickly lay out what I would think would be an appropriate menu. You'd have an arcade mode, which is just straight fighting. You'd have obviously your versus mode, whether it be local or online. Then there could be a story mode, which gives every individual character's dedicated story. Which beating the dedicated stories of certain characters will unlock other characters and you can play their stories. Okay? Then, and all of this is just based on the main story. Like, the dedicated stories mode is the main story of the game. We're not talking about any of the like events and stuff because I have another mode for that. And that could be the adventure mode. And that would be where like event-based stories happened and stuff like that. That like side story stuff that wasn't a part of like the main game. So where you could find other characters that were like main characters of a particular event story. That's where you would find, like, you would play and unlock them, and then you can unlock their stories in the story mode separately. Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you just play their stories in the adventure mode. Like that, I think that makes a little bit more sense. Now, I'm going to work in reverse from this. The main story, well, not the main story, the adventure mode would be laid out very similarly to the Dragon Ball Fighters, like how that's set up, where you have your little chibi avatar character and stuff. Like, so any of the main cast characters or any characters that you unlock would be able to be used as your avatar for this, and they'd all be there and be playable. So that was what makes a lot of sense to me. Thinking, because I'm trying not to like let myself get sidetracked. That way, but like you can play the adventure stories as they unlock. The world map of the adventure mode would reflect the actual world map from the game, from the mobile game. So it would work in sections where you have the overall general scope of the map, and then you move your little avatar on the map, which kind of would operate more like a Mario map, like Super Mario World or Mario 3, where they just move across to it. And then once you're in it, then you have like this little hub that they're inside of, very similar to Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Fighters. I say it both ways. I get myself so tongue-tied on that. But that little hub world would allow you to move around. Like in every place on the map has a individual hub that has a different song from the game playing that is themed to it. And the music from the soundtrack for this game is actually the mobile game is actually pretty good. If you haven't given it a listen, I'd suggest looking it up. That stated, you'd be able to move around that map, like whatever, like I said, whatever your avatar character is, that's who you're playing as for the story in the adventure mode, unless there are specific parts for certain characters, and then you will play as those characters, which the game will explain, obviously, because it's just how it would work. Because some of those stories, certain characters have to be in certain places at particular times, and that's how the event stories work. Like, I like all of them so far, but I mean, I've also missed a couple of them. wish I could go back to them, but I don't think Nintendo's going to be Nintendo or Side Games are going to be rehashing any of them anytime soon. Because they've got a lot of events that they're working on. That would be how that mode would run. Like, I haven't gone into gameplay yet because gameplay is a little bit more complicated. So that's what I'm trying to save towards the end. So if anybody's waiting for that, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait a little longer. Now, the main story mode. Each individual character has their own perspective of things, and you'd be playing from that particular character's perspective, which would possibly mean that you're going to have different angles of certain situations, like when Uden gives his speech to New Alberia. If you haven't played the game, sorry, the game's been out long enough, like people could have progressed the main story that far. Like, I'm not going to be talking too much about it anyway. But you could have the different perspective of, like, I guess you'd say the big man Razzle. Was it Ranzel? I keep not paying attention to how his name is spelled. But either way, like the big axe wielding dude, or the paladin that's with them, Ellie. I don't know why I almost forgot her name. But just from different angles and different perspectives of how certain situations boil down and a particular character's thoughts at a certain time. And obviously Uden would probably have like the longest story of all of the characters. So everybody's story length would not match up. Like, it would be different lengths in story for each character, but you'd have different fights that they all participate in. Or the different fights that they all participate in, everybody would be there and you'd be playing as that particular character and get their dialogue back and forth with whoever they're dealing with at the time. Which is all good with me. So that I would be really good with, and I think that would actually be kind of interesting. And I would like to see something like that, and think that they could definitely pull it off with the team that I am suggesting. I don't know. I guess personally, I just think that it would be something that would draw a lot of people's attention. One, because it would be a new franchise on Switch. I mean, and it'd be a new fighting game, and it would be a Nintendo exclusive fighting game, sort of like Smash, but in a different style. And it would be made by a team that is well known for making pretty good fighters. So, like, all of that wrapped up into one nice bundle, I think that works out well. But that's the story mode and stuff. Let's get into how gameplay will work. Because, I mean, arcade and versus modes would be standard fare. And obviously, you need a practice mode for people to learn character moves and stuff like that. And options and button configurations. That's all the standard fare stuff. I'd probably also throw in a survival mode just because it'd be nice to have it. Like, in fighting games have been lacking that a little bit as of late. But outside of that, okay. So gameplay, I've thought about this, and there's a couple things that I would want to have included in this, and it's because the characters, okay, the character Uden was a, I don't know if you call him, it's not Dragonborn because that's Skyrim, like basically he's part of a bloodline of people who can make pacts with dragons and use their power. And I think from the game's premise, the game's purpose is that he can give that power to other people, though I don't think it's canonical to the game's actual story, but it is part of the gameplay of the mobile game where other characters can also transform into dragons and stuff like that. So here's the thing, like all of the main dragons, and again, the event dragons that are unlocked with the event characters for the adventure mode would all be usable and be able to be used by basically any character, because the dragons are basically like a ultra attack that does high damage, like same type of notion as Street Fighter 4. So basic layout here. Every character has their own supers, their own specials and stuff like that, and their own play style. But each dragon has a very specific move that they do when you are able to summon that power out. So, what I would say is you play the game, like playing the game and fighting normally, you are building up your super meter to do super moves or special moves or hyper moves or whatever they want to call them. Whatever they would like to call them, signature moves, any of that. You want to have that be separate from the Dragon Gauge, and Dragon Gauge would build up very much like the Ultra Gauge in Street Fighter 4. It could just be a little circle in the background that stays blank until you have taken enough damage, and then the dragon awakens, the power of the dragon awakens. That way you can use them like as a trump card to kind of end the battle. And like, to me, that would make a lot of sense. Like, it'd just be a nice little notion to have. Like, that way, you don't have somebody spamming, like, the dragon attacks immediately from the beginning. But, and I was going to try to incorporate the elemental system into the fighting game, but then I thought about it, that would work against balancing. That would really, truly work against balancing this. Because then you'd have people intentionally playing against other people's weaknesses. So that would have to be scrapped. Much like if there were like a Fire Emblem fighting game, the same thing would have to be done. That notion would have to be scrapped. You'd have to have the characters be all able to be on an even playing field. At least from the start. So playing that, like and there are a ton of different dragons in this game. Like the only character I think would be interesting to put in this, interesting from two perspectives, is the character called Mim, or damn, I forgot what she's called as a dragon. I think it's Bruhilda or something like that. Because she transforms into a humanoid form, so I'd want her to be playable in that humanoid form. But I also want her dragon form available for people to be able to use. But for her, I don't think it would be allowed for her to be able to use other dragons. Like, that just kind of works. That's just kind of funny. So I think her humanoid form being playable would only be able to use her dragon form as her dragon thing. Like, it just makes more sense that way. That's how it works. Or if she does use, oh no, I don't know. Like, it's a complicated thing. I don't know which one would be more fair. Like that, but I guess she would need to have some sort of advantage if you did that, wouldn't she? Maybe not. Maybe not leave her locked like that. Like, it's just the thought that was in my head that I was trying to go over, and like, no, I don't think that would be very fair to the character. Like, if that's the case. I mean, you don't play with her in the game, the mobile game. Like, but she's definitely there in a human form. When she transforms after she makes the pact with Uden, she has a humanoid form. Because I'm not going to say why, but if you've played any Fire Emblem game, you're probably thinking about it already. So... I'm not going to say much more than that. But like for me, like that, I think would work out well. And I would want the characters to have 2 health bars per round. So they'd have like a yellow bar and then a red bar. Like the yellow bar is their normal state, and then once they get to the red bar, their face changes on the screen. Like not when you're not the character sprites you're playing with, because I would want this to be sprites or, well, yeah, definitely like high definition sprites, because Arc System Works makes those look beautiful. But their face panel changes in the middle of the fight, so it goes from looking like normal to like they're battle damaged or whatever. Just I guess I like those types of things to be included. And that's per round. Like it doesn't have to be like you knock 1 health bar out, then they fall down and get back up like Marvel superheroes or X-Men Children of the Atom. Like I don't really like that setup for this type of game. Like I do want the round system where where you knock somebody out, they pose, and then they reset back to normal positions. Man, thinking. Like, and I want the gameplay to definitely be very much like Guilty Gear or Blaze Blue, because that, like, from seeing those games in action and having played Guilty Gear myself, I'm like, yeah, this could work. Like this would be nice. And I could see them using these characters and setting up really good combo systems for them. And that's why it was interesting to me. And I was looking out like, oh, okay, that would make a lot of sense to do that. And that's why it's on my mind and on my radar as something I would love to see be done. And honestly, this type of game being on the Switch, I think could do very well and sell very well. That's just me personally. I think it would do pretty decent, like with it being exclusive to Nintendo, and on top of that, having Arc System Works behind the game. I mean, like, there's no way I could see this not doing well. Like, at least in my mind, if they were willing to take the suggestion of a lowly YouTuber like me and say, hey, that sounds cool. Maybe we could do something like that. But it's just, to me, like, the thought, it's cool. Like, and I'm interested in that concept. I'm interested in seeing it done and want to see how well it would work. Like, because I know, like, me looking at these characters, I can see them working out extremely well in that type of setting. And it's like one of those things where I'm like, this, I would love to see this and like to play it, and it would be awesome if they did it. So I don't have too much more to really talk about with this, because I've talked about all of the main points and all the stuff that really does matter with this game. So again, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of wanting to see this game translated to a different format, because it would be fun. It would definitely be fun as a fighting game. There are other formats I could see working out for it, but I'm not doing all that in this discussion here. So thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, please enjoy your games and peace out.